Morning. Let's try to get through all 12 of the poses for osteoporosis this morning together. Here we go. I'm going to be using my phone to time us because sometimes I breathe a little quicker, sometimes I breathe a little slower, and each pose is meant to be held for 30 seconds. And we'll be using the other side as a rest for the first side and sometimes resting between poses. So let's just begin with a little bit of warming up, just swinging the hips side to side, maybe forward and back a little bit, breathing deep, take the arms up, maybe side to side. You can move into a little bit of twisting. You'll want to have a strap and maybe a block for the practice today. Okay, let's get started. The first pose is bridge pose. So you lie back on your back. Take a deep breath. Settle into the floor. Your knees are bent. Your feet are about hips width apart. And you slowly take a deep breath in. On the exhale, you'll begin to lift the hips off the floor and we'll begin our 30-second hold. And it's nice to count the breath here. In and out. If you have any pain in your knees, you can walk your feet further away from you. You can always slide a block up underneath. Anything that you can do to help yourself keep the pose. And that's 30 seconds. Coming out, just begin to move a little bit. Taking our 30 seconds break, we're going to move into the next pose, which is hand to toe, variation 1. And I like to use a strap. So you take the strap, wrap it around the ball of the foot, holding the leg pretty much straight up in the air, begin that 30-second count. Now you're going to want to add a little bit of pressure to the strap and a little bit of push up with the foot so that you're gaining strength. I keep this knee bent for a while and then eventually stretch it out if that's okay for your low back. One more breath. And slowly bend the knee. Take a little break. And then we'll move into variation 2 for hand to toe, which is the leg going wide. So we'll re-bend this knee. Push the foot up in the air. Take the leg out wide. Making sure that this other hip stays on the floor the whole time. That's why I like to have this knee bent. You can stretch the leg out, but make sure both hips stay on the floor as we begin the 30-second hold. Again, adding a little bit of pull on the strap and push on the foot. This isometric work helps to build the bone. One more breath. Slowly bring the leg up. Maybe cross the leg over, do a little figure 4 or rocking. We'll just take a little break here. And then we'll slowly move into the other side. This time the left foot in the strap, nice and pointing straight up into the air, but the knee can be bent. The leg does not have to be straight. This knee stays bent for a moment, making sure both hips stay on the floor, and we can begin the 30-second count. Eventually, you might want to stretch the leg out, keeping that little bit of pressure between the strap and the foot. Never going into 100% effort, maybe staying between 75 and 25% of your effort in all of the poses, which creates the opportunity to stay out of pain. Slowly bend the knee. Take a little break. And then begin to stretch the leg out. My wall is in the way. So I'm just going to hold for 30 seconds here. Deep breaths. This knee should probably be bent. If my leg was wider, it would definitely need to be bent, just to even out the hips and keep them placed on the floor. This really helps with the building of the strength and the bone in the core, the low back and the hips. Slowly bring the leg back up. Maybe cross it over. Do a little side to side. We're finished with our strap, so we'll just put it off to the side. And we're going to roll over onto our right side and take a moment for gratitude, just to think of something really good that's in your life right now. And then slowly make your way onto your belly. We're going to move into locust pose. There are a lot of variations for this pose. You can take the arms out in front of you. You could do one leg, one arm. You could do the opposite. You can kind of switch back and forth. You could do both together. I'm going to choose a position today that I like, which is my hands are down on my low back and my legs are up in the air. Let's begin the 30-second count. Deep breath. Coming out if there's any pain. Protecting the neck by simply gazing down. And relaxing out of the pose. Maybe fold your hands, turn your head to one side. Feel free to rock your hips a little bit. Maybe swing the legs side to side. Feel free to come into a back bend if that's okay for your low back. Just taking some deep breaths into the belly. Just as a way of transitioning out of the belly pose and moving slowly up to standing. You can throw in a child's pose. Maybe a cat-cow. Or a down dog. Strangely, this pose is not in the 12 poses, although it is a whole body strengthener. Eventually, we'll be standing slowly up for our standing poses. So the first standing pose is revolved triangle. So you come up to the front. Actually, let's start in the middle of the mat. Take a deep breath. Step back with the right foot first. The front knee can bend a little bit. You'll want to make sure that you didn't step right behind your front foot. You want the 2 feet on different tracks. And the knees, toes, and hips pointing toward that end of the mat, the heart as well. And then begin to lengthen the spine, hands on the hips, lean slightly forward, straightening the leg if that feels okay for your hamstring. Taking the opposite arm across into a revolved triangle. And we'll begin that 30-second count. Deep breaths. Making sure that we're not leaning forward here. We want to be leaning back. We want the hips to the shoulders in line and the shoulders stacked one on top of the other. My bottom shoulder a little bit behind me there. You can always take this arm up, adding weight, squeezing the thighs together to help with balance, or standing next to something to support you. Slowly turn forward. You can bend the knee and step up. Take a moment and we'll try the other side. Deep breath. Stepping back with the right foot. Stepping back with the left foot. Leaning forward. Crossing the hand over into the revolved position, 30-second count. And you can learn over time how many breaths you take in 30 seconds. I take about 5 or 6, but I wanted this video to be more exact for you, so I'm using my timer today. Slowly turning forward, bending the knee and stepping up. Take a moment, move your hips a little bit, maybe in circles. Be careful not to fall over. Coming back to center, we'll move into our wide angle poses. So the feet go as wide apart as it feels comfortable for you, toes pointing forward at first. And then we'll slowly begin to turn the left toes out. We want to make sure the heel of the front foot is in line with the arch of the back foot, or as close to that as your hips prefer. Bending into the knee, make sure that you can still see your two big toes, maybe even point the knee toward the pinky toe a little bit to keep it lined up. Arms lift up, heart forward, and you can turn your gaze over that left hand as we move into the 30-second count. You can engage a little more here by pressing the feet slowly into the floor, maybe making sure that the outer foot is engaged by pressing it down. If your arms get tired, you can always lower them. The work here is in the spine and the core. The arms do help add weight to the weight-bearing effects of these poses. And slowly lower the arms down, straighten that knee, and we'll move to the other side. Turning the right toes out, bend into that knee, check your alignment, moving the arms up, and hold for 30 seconds. Lowering the arms, straightening the knee, turning the toes forward. You could take a moment here to lean forward, do a little wide angle forward fold, or a goddess pose, anything that works for your body. Eventually bringing the legs back together to give those hips a break. Our next pose is another wide angle. So we're gonna go back into wide angle, toes pointing forward at first, and then turn the left toes out, bend into the knee, find that warrior two stance, but then begin to bend that elbow, bring it to the thigh. This arm can reach up or over or down behind you, and we'll begin that 30-second count. Breathing, again, engaging your feet. That little bit of squeeze on the muscles of the legs can help to build those long leg bones. The torso long from your pubic bone up through the crown of your head. One more breath. Slowly pushing up, straightening that knee, turn the toes forward. Take just a moment, maybe a little bit of movement in the hips, and then turning the other toes out. We find the warrior two at first, and then bend and move into the other side. 30 seconds here. Slowly coming up, straightening the knee, turn the toes forward, and we'll take a little break between this and our next pose. Some deep breaths, maybe breathing in through the nose and out the mouth. Okay, so wide angle again. Turn those right toes out, bend into the knee. We find the warrior two, then we find the side angle, but this time let's put our hand on the thigh because we're going to start to straighten the knee, moving into triangle pose. You can begin the 30 seconds now. If your hands can stay low, this hand can come up. This hand might need a block. Making sure, checking all of your alignment pieces, feet in line, hips in line, shoulders one on top of the other, This is really nice to do against a wall as well. Feels really supported. Eventually, maybe you won't need the block. Just let the hand hang inside the front of the shin. Slowly coming up, turning the toes forward. Just take a momentary break on this side, and then turning the other toes out. First the warrior two, then the extended angle, and then your triangle pose for 30 seconds here. You can feel the work in the core right through here and here, building all the muscle and bone. Slowly coming up. You can rebend the knee, take a moment, turn, stretch, and eventually we are going to stand all the way up. And let's take a little break, a little longer break here. Swing those hips, maybe do a little bit of twisting. Make sure that your knee follows the twist so that there's no turning in the knee joint itself. Just trying to stay safe. And we'll do our tree pose. I like to do tree pose with a block sometimes. There are lots of ways to do tree pose. So I'm standing beside the block. The leg next to the block is my standing leg. Begin to bend the other knee forward up onto those toes. Open the knee wide, and you can place the foot on the inside of the ankle, on the calf, or, of course, traditional tree up here in the thigh. Or you can cross the ankle and press the ball of the foot into the block, which is where I'm going to go today, and hold for 30 seconds. The base of the pose has some energy here. The foot is pressing into the block. If you'd like to add the weight of the arms, they lift up. Maybe the fingers touch, or they stay wide like branches, or they come together at your heart. The higher the arms, the more weight there will be in your torso. Just 3 more deep breaths. Make that one, and slowly come down. Take a little break. And we'll try the other side. All the weight into that standing leg next to the block. Knee comes forward and then opens up. And you can choose where you'd like to go for your tree pose today. Also, always stand next to a wall or a chair or a table, anything that can help you feel more stable. We're breathing and we're adding the weight of the arms lifting up through the crown of the head. Slowly coming down, taking a break. Deep breaths. Those are our 5 standing poses. We'll be moving down to seated now, and you can always go down through table, down dog, child's pose, just taking your time to reach the floor. Eventually, finding staff pose. Nice and tall, wiggle your toes a little bit. Tall spine, maybe even lean back a little. Inhale and exhale. With osteoporosis, we always want to keep our spine long. We never want to do any rounding, especially in the low back. It's okay to open and close the top of the spine, get a little push, and then stay mostly tall. Now let's move into our 2 seated poses. The first one is called bent knee with one leg long. We cross this foot over, and then we turn toward the knee that's bent, and we'll hold the pose. I like to move my belly out of the way, take the other hand behind, and breathe. Slowly coming out of the pose. Maybe turn the other way for a moment. Take a little break and we'll do the other side. Bend the knee up and cross it over, twisting toward that bent knee. And breathe. You always want to have the shoulders level, the neck coming straight up out of the spine. And then maybe you can look over the shoulder. This is not necessarily important here. What's happening is all of the pressure that's happening here in the hip and the low back are strengthening the spine. Slowly turning forward, stretch the legs out again, rock a little, and we'll move into the second variation here. This one is called with the knee bent. That was with the legs straight. This one's with the knee bent, which is funny because the other knee is always bent. So let's bend up one knee, cross the foot over, and you can tuck the foot under if that's okay for your knee and your foot. If it doesn't work for you, please just go right back into the other variation for the second pose. Breathing deep, we'll begin to twist toward that top bent knee. And you should be able to feel a little bit of stretch right through the hip here. The spine is still tall and long, the heart is lifting, and you can look over your shoulder. Slowly turning back around, uncross the legs, take a little break, stretch them out, maybe bounce the knees a little bit, wiggle the toes, and then we'll try the other side. Knee bent, cross it over, see if you'd like to tuck the leg under or keep it straight. Always remembering that we are responsible only to ourselves in our yoga poses. We are the ones who live in our body. So we are the ones who are the caretakers of it. Slowly turning out of that pose, unwinding, bouncing the knees a little, and we've come to the end of our practice. Our final pose is shavasana, the most important one, where we move into rest and restore, where we can begin to heal and build our bones. So go ahead and lay all the way back. You might choose to keep your knees bent or your legs long. I'm going to stay seated and sing to you just for a moment here at the end as you rest. And you'll want to take at least a 5-minute shavasana, just because it takes the nervous system a little while to get acclimated to the fact that everything is okay. Take a few more deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and out the mouth. Feel free to hum along with me or sing. Any sound, vibration that you can get moving through your body is helpful to relax the nervous system and help your body begin to heal. Namaste. Take a few more deep breaths and come back into your life again.